Good morning, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order, please. Hello. I feel like a school teacher sometimes. Okay, on that note, we're going to call the meeting to order, and can I just ask for the approval of the agenda? I need a mover and a seconder, please. So Councillor Oosterhoff and Alex, who are online with us, and I'm assuming we're all in favor of the agenda? Okay, that looks good, thank you. All right, so now I need confirmation of the minutes. So can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Okay, so Alex again, and Peter, thank you. And all in favor? Super, thank you so much. Do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We have no delegations, no briefings, so we're on to business. There are no pre-consultations, no policy development and implementation matters. So we're on to Stream 3 permits, which is approval through council authority. So we're going to be looking at the application for Ontario Heritage Act approval, 9 George Street. So if I could have staff please introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The subject property is situated on the corner of George and Wellington Streets in the Berryfield Heritage Conservation District. The property contains a 1.5-story rectangular plan building with gable roof. This application under Section 42 of the Ontario Heritage Act has been submitted to gain approval for a series of alterations and new construction to the existing building. The proposed alterations include a second-floor addition above the existing single-story addition, a wooden carport, a wooden covered porch, a raised foundation, windows, standing seam roof, wood horizontal siding, new window openings on the vestibule, and 2 decks facing the rear yard. A Heritage Impact Statement, or HIS, was prepared to assess the impacts of the proposed work and provide mitigation recommendations. The HIS concluded that the proposed development at 9 George Street will have no negative impacts to the district's heritage attributes. Heritage planning staff have reviewed and generally agree with this conclusion that the district will not be altered or negatively impacted by the proposed development. Heritage planning staff recommend that the alterations to the property at 9 George Street be approved in accordance with details described in the application, subject to the conditions outlined in Exhibit A. And I believe an agent of the property owner is here today to address any specific design questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Are there any questions from the public? And if you do have questions, please come up to one of the microphones. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, I support the proposal and really commend the applicants for their thorough study and commitment to heritage attributes. I just have one small comment or query or concern, and that is the absence of a chimney on the renovated building. Originally, the house had a chimney. It still has a chimney now, although a pretty bad one. I believe the district plan says quite clearly that chimneys should be retained. It doesn't say explicitly that chimneys that have disappeared should be rebuilt, but I think it would be good if it had a chimney. And I just wondered if the applicants would comment on the question of a chimney. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, just state your name and you can proceed.
Hi, I'm Michaela Hughes. I'm the architect and applicant. Unfortunately, the owner isn't here, so I can't speak for him, but I can certainly talk to him about, I guess, recreating the original chimney. The chimney that's there now was added, I believe, when they added the furnace, and that sort of ugly addition on the west side. It's by no means original. The house would have had a chimney at the center, not at one of the ends, based on what we can see on the inside. So a chimney would, if a chimney were added, it would just, it would not be a functional chimney. And as I said, I can certainly speak to George about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to need a mover and a seconder so that we can call the vote. Okay, so Jen, and there's Gary again, Councillor Oosterhoff, sorry, Gary. All right, so I'm going to call the vote unless there's any other comments. All in favor? All right, thank you very much. So next we're on to notice of intent to designate under the Ontario Heritage Act. So what's before us today are 294 Elliott Avenue, 3751 Smith Road, 3867 Smith Road, 722 to 766 John Counter Boulevard, 831 Montreal Street, 1901 Jackson Mills Road, 262 Wellington Street, 2973 Orser Road, 4246 Florida Road, 1617 to 1619 Union Street, and 79 to 83 Princess Street. If staff could please introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the report today is regarding those 11 properties that the Chair just mentioned to determine their cultural heritage value and interest. This group today includes a number of limestone and wood frame vernacular buildings, both in the rural area and former rural areas of the city, including the Elliott House of Elliott Avenue, the Smith Farm of Smith Road, and the Orser Farmhouse of Orser Road. The group also includes an extent portion of the former mill of Jackson Mills Road. The group also includes an unusual, modest-scaled Second Empire-style dwelling in a historically working-class area of Montreal Street, a rare example of a Bay and Gable-style duplex on Wellington Street, a distinctive brick commercial building in downtown Kingston, as well as a former tavern in Portsmouth Village with a troubled past. The owners of the properties listed above have been provided with draft designation bylaws and general information on the heritage designations by registered mail. The owners were also invited to an open house on August 28th, hosted by heritage staff, where the property owners of two of the addresses attended. Two property owners from this batch have expressed their support for the proposed designation. We're also aware of owners of 831 Montreal Street have expressed their opposition to this designation, and I believe they're here today to speak to the committee in this regard. And as mentioned, all the properties in this group meet the provincial criteria for determining cultural heritage value as set out in Ontario Regulation 906. The notice of intent to designate and the draft bylaws have been prepared in accordance with the recent amendments to the Heritage Act, and accordingly, staff recommend proceeding with the serving of notice of intention to designate on the subject properties, to ensure their conservation and to enable the city to provide support and resources to the owners and tenants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Are there any questions from the public? And you can come forward to one of the microphones and you have, state your name and address, please, and you have 5 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Cassandra Hawes. This is my husband, Adam, and we are the proud owners of 831 Montreal Street. We're here today to ask you to reconsider your intentions to place our building on a historical designation. We have taken great care of it. I'm going to ask Adam in a minute to just give you a bit of the history of it. It is a rental property for us. We take great care of our tenants. The only evictions we have ever made were the 21 raccoons that were living there when we purchased the property. So I'm going to hand it over to Adam now to just read what he's written.
Good morning. My name is Adam. Thank you for hearing us out today. Hope you'll be able to look past that I'm not a very good public speaker, but I'll do my best. I'm just a simple tradesman. I don't intend to argue about whether or not the committee has authority to designate our building as heritage, but I would consider that you look at the principle and intention of the act that grants you that authority. I know it's council really that will ultimately make that decision, but I know this committee has great influence in that way. So surely the spirit and intention of the Heritage Act is to give authority to step in and protect historically significant and valuable buildings that are in danger of being lost, but not necessarily to muscle your way into another person's affairs who have already gone to great lengths to preserve and protect such a property. I guess the idea is that just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should designate against the will of the owners, especially when the owners have displayed a history of goodwill towards the building. Some might say, we're doing what's necessary for the preservation of a structure of value to Kingston and the people thereof. But is that true, or has such necessary action already been taken by the current owners of the property? It has been said to us that you have the freedom to use modern materials and make changes as you desire. We're simply protecting the building from demolition and loss. Our building has been protected from demolition and loss. Actually, it had been close to demolition from neglect at one time, but my father and I took great care and expense to restore the building, which finished that restoration about 15 years ago. We painstakingly rebuilt the stone foundation where it was crumbling and restored the integrity of both brick and stone, removing crumbling mortar and repointing much of it. After many years of weathering, the brick had lost its hard finish, exposing the softer inside of the brick. We did not paint or cover it with siding, but we used the best sealants available to us to seal and protect what remained, keeping the original look while preventing further spalling, the act of water soaking into the brick and freezing and causing the face of the brick to shear off. And we also prevented further erosion through that process. A structural engineer was brought in so that the Mansard roof could be properly supported and strengthened where necessary, preserving it and making it stronger than the original. I must ask, who would demolish this building when new footings have been placed? Every beam is new, every floor joist and ceiling joist is new, every wall stud, all insulation, electrical wiring, plumbing, and heating, it's all new. Who would approve of such a demolition? Is it really of such great concern that it's worth stepping on the toes of the ones who have made such restoration and want to preserve it for the next generation? No protection was given to 831 Montreal Street when it was in a condemnable state, when the rain was coming in and the wood was rotted and the structure was dangerous. It was infested with animals. It was full of feces. The walls were covered in actual human blood splatter. Every hole and crevice was full of needles. It reeked of decaying flesh of rats. Even if your intentions are absolutely good and not wishing to put us to grief or place any undue hardship on us, and I believe they are, I believe that those are good intentions, can it be guaranteed that some future person with the authority you now possess wouldn't do so? There are those in financial distress.
30 seconds.
Okay. I would just ask that you display your goodwill towards us in not designating the building. Please allow us to maintain our current level of autonomy. We would love to continue to look after the building and obviously would never demolish it, and I don't think anybody else would. I hope none of my words are taken as an attack or an insult upon the Heritage Committee. We respect you and we thank you for carefully hearing and considering our position and plea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Staff, do you want to respond to any of the comments?
Madam Chair, as the speakers stated right at the beginning, they're not really questioning the cultural heritage value of the property, which is the basis for us bringing this forward to this group. We evaluated this property, was originally flagged as part of the heritage conservation evaluation for the third crossing. Many years ago, it was then reevaluated by a group of consultants that the city retained in 2015, and has recently been reevaluated by Heritage staff. So we're confident that it meets the prescribed tests and recommend its advancement to designation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, come forward and state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Do I have a 5-minute limit? Okay, I'm going to have to brief this quickly. My name is Karen Eves. I live at 2975 Ursa Road, which is a limestone farmstead. The crux of the matter for us, and I have done some research on this, and I understand that according to the provincial standards that the insurance company should not raise your premium. But in our case, we have unique insurance needs. It's agricultural, and within that agricultural, we are still unique. So we only have a very selected insurance companies that will insure us. They have stated, and this is the first time in our insurance policy we have seen this. Since this is a heritage dwelling, it adds an extra $500,000 to the replacement cost. It also states, we found the heritage dwelling to be underinsured currently. This translates to an enormous increase in our premium of between $15,000 and $20,000 a year. This would bankrupt us and would put it, I don't know how we would get out of this situation. As I said, you'll probably have more questions for me about how unique this is. The consequence of this would be devaluing our property, which it should not, and according to most heritage plans, it states that it will not. However, in a very recent real estate board in north of Toronto have stated that beyond the heritage specific designations, zoning bylaws can add another layer of complexity and discourage buyers and financiers from financing the property and a decrease in value. Further, because of this enormous complication to our property, we have sought legal opinion. None of the legal opinions we are seeking can meet your time deadline. So I'm looking, first of all, for an extension. I do believe we need legal consult on that. We should not be denied it. And further to that, on this very recent, it is Canadian and it's from BC, but unfortunately I can't contextualize it for you as much as you'd want. If a designated by a heritage designation bylaw clause or will cause that the time of the designation, a reduction in the market value of the designated property, the council must compensate the owner of the designated property who makes an application under subsection 2 in an amount in the form of the council and the owner agree on failing an agreement in the amount or in the form determined by council, an arbitrator will be binding. And then it goes on after that. This represents, I realize, a very complicated situation for heritage homes. I believe our situation is unique in that the insurance clause is not abiding by what the Ontario Provincial is recommending and saying it should not. They will argue very distinctly that they're in a business to make money and accept risk. If we do not have insurance, we do not have a mortgage. So we cannot do away with this complication. Further on that subject, some of the designations by the Ontario Heritage Act are not met. Some of them obviously are. The home has had extension renovations. We are inspected
30
regularly
seconds.
by our insurance company, and one of the things that we are doing is that it states that the fence and the setting is part of the heritage nomination. The fencing was only constructed in the last 20 years. It's made to look old, but it's only 20 years old. And we have to reinforce it with shrubbery, which will make the home, you cannot see it from the road. No one will be able to observe the natural history of this property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, so there were a number of items in there, so I will move to staff to start addressing these, and I believe we'll have to call on Mr. McLeod to also potentially make some comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will comment on a couple of things, and I will pass it off to my manager here in just a sec. I just wanted to note this particular property, well, the committee knows, only needs to meet 2 of the 9 criteria. And according to our evaluation, this property meets 4, I believe. So it exceeds the minimum threshold. The only other point I would add to this before passing it off is this isn't the first active farm that has been designated recently. I think we've done, I'm going to estimate about 15 so far. So, and I don't know their situation specifically, but the designations have gone through without objection. So I'll pass it on to Joel.
May I address that?
Sorry, the procedure doesn't allow me to do that, okay? But we'll continue to answer the questions you've put forth so far, okay?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Regarding property insurance premiums, as has been mentioned, insurance premiums should not go up because of heritage designation as outlined on provincial websites, specifically regarding heritage properties and insurance. So insurance companies may increase premiums for older building for a variety of reasons, such as outdated wiring, old heating systems, etc., but they should not go up because of heritage designation. There is a
Okay, I'll let staff finish the questions, and there will be opportunity for committee to further this discussion once we move the motion, okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll now pass it over to our legal counsel who may wish to comment.
Thank you, through the chair. The only comment I made, the request for adjournment for legal advice is generally considered a reasonable one. And if there could be consideration of a timeline to achieve that, that would probably assist.
Okay, so can you, I'm going to interject and just ask a quick question here. Can you advise what the process is for making that request? Yes, please.
There's nothing formal in the request for seeking legal advice in a procedure. It has been raised, and my suggestion is that a single adjournment to allow for that kind of deferral, we would use the language of a committee, a single deferral to allow a person to obtain legal advice when requested is generally a reasonable matter. So the question would be how long a deferral, and usually to the next committee meeting would be considered reasonable unless there's more information than the property owner would share on that timeline.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay. So seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor so that we can proceed. Okay, we've got Councillor Oosterhoff and Alex, so it's on.
Madam Chair, I just wondered, are we able to, I'm not sure if Alex, are we able to speak to what we just heard?
Yes, that's why it's been put on the floor. So at this point, we can move to it. So would you like to go first, and then I'll have, I'm assuming, Alex, your hand's still up because you'd like to speak as well? Okay, super.
That's right.
Go ahead, Councillor Oosterhoff.
Sorry about that. Just get my screen figured out. That was really interesting, and I certainly will. I don't have the contact information from, this is my constituent, so I want to say hi to her, and I will definitely follow up with her at that address, or if she can contact me. I'm wondering, Madam Chair, if this is probably the first time I've heard this, and I think I guess I would ask our staff if we've not. I'm surprised by what I've heard. I think that this must be some uninformed insurance company, because it does not make any sense to me from my time. I'm here and have learned a lot about heritage and its role and importance to our community, but it's also not to be a burden on the homeowners. And this sounds like it's really going to be, and there's must be some grave misunderstanding in the insurance company. It's not a greater risk to them, in my opinion, and it should not be. So I will also come alongside and chat with them very soon, and see. But I would hope that our committee, our staff, would work significantly to protect this our constituent, and that we would be active in unraveling any complications here and communicating at the right level, because I will not support any designation that causes this kind of hardship on anyone. So again, we're all about re-education and understanding, and we should be celebrating the opportunity, but not at the expense of and the livelihood or the financial situation of owners. So I'm all over this myself. I can't see this kind of thing happen, not to one. So I'm hopeful that we will do better here and help these people and find a way through.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Oosterhoff. Alex, go ahead.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some clarification from the property owner. I'm a bit confused because the property is not yet designated. So I'm confused how the insurance company would be proposing this, unless they became aware that it was being intended to be designated, and in that time period informed her they would be raising the rates on that basis. So I just wanted to clarify from her, did they say that they were raising it because it's a heritage home in the sense that it's an older home, or did they say that they're raising it specifically because of the intention of the city to designate it as a heritage home under the Heritage Act? So if we could get clarification from her, I don't know if she has a copy of the letter from the insurance company.
Alex, I'm going to interject because we can't actually do that in the context of this meeting. Is there anything else you'd like to address?
Well, I also wanted to get clarification from her on the timeline she was hoping for in regards to legal advice, but I guess that would fall under the same thing. And I was hoping to get...
So I'm going to interject again, Alex, and I think at this point... so I'm going to take a little bit of liberty here as the chair, and I guess I'm going to have to ask Jane to take over for a minute. Could you please take the chair?
Yes. I received the chair. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I am going to, at this point, make a motion to defer this. I think a reasonable time limit is probably the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. The next meeting of the Kingston Heritage Property Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, October 16th. So that's just about over a month. So I think that is a reasonable time for the deferral.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask for a deferral, and I think Councillor Oosterhoff is there. You can, I don't know if you can see him, Jane, but he's got his hand up to second.
Okay,
And I'll
so-
let you continue.
Okay, so that's a motion by Councillor Glenn to defer this particular designation until the next Kingston Heritage Property Committee meeting on Wednesday, October 16th, and seconded by Councillor Oosterhoff. And I'll pass the chair back. Can I now? No. Oh, okay. All those in favor of this amendment, adding this amendment to the motion?
Okay, I'm going to take the opportunity to speak to it first, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
That's
right.
okay, no worries. We're a little more relaxed here about that. I think this is an opportunity, as Councillor Oosterhoff has mentioned, to get back the information. Alex had some really good questions, so I'm going to urge you to make good use of that time, and we will hopefully vote in favor of this to allow you the time to come back and present the information that's critical to your particular circumstance. Okay, thank you.
And can we have other, okay, but I'm going to pass the chair back to you now, can I? No, we're still in the motion. Right, so would any other members like to comment? Okay, Alex.
Thank you. I was curious if there's any concern regarding timeline over, how long we defer this motion, if at some point it expires or it becomes an issue where the property can no longer be designated. If staff could answer that. Or.
Okay, Ian?
So through the Vice Chair, motions to defer can only go to about 90 days. So there is no, to my knowledge, there would be no undue hardship in terms of timelines from Heritage staff. They could confirm for me from there about the designation itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes. Peter?
Sorry, can I just get a clarification? You are asking for the deferral just of the one property or of the whole motion?
Just of 2973 Orser Road.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so now we're going to call the vote on this particular motion for that particular 2973 Orser Road. All those in favor? That's passed. And now I will pass the chair back to Councillor Flynn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate that. So I'm just going to go to the clerk for a clarification on something. Okay, so are there any other comments on the motion as amended? Okay, Jen, go ahead.
I just wanted to get back to the first property that commented on. I just wanted to thank you guys for, sharing your input. And I mean, what we look for in heritage property owners is people that take care of it like that. I'd be interested, I know we can't ask questions, but why specifically? That I feel like you guys would be, like, this wouldn't have a huge effect on you guys. It would really support what you're doing and you'd get extra money. And it would just mean that later on that, when it passes to another person, that all that hard work isn't demolished and isn't, built over. But thank you so much for your letter. It was really great.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. Councillor Oosterhoff, go ahead.
Sorry. I just appreciate the comments of my colleague there, and I did want to address the Montreal Street one as well. Very impressed. Well said. You're a great speaker. I was really impressed with what you shared. And I think that's probably right. I mean, it's a real credit to you and our city and your recognition of the value of the place and how you've rebuilt it. And I'm happy to stop by sometime and talk about it anytime you want to reach out to me to just have some dialogue about your situation. But I don't believe a designation will be a burden. It'll be just a recognition of what you've done really, really well and deserve a lot of credit. And I just, I think it's something that will preserve it for a long time, and so no one else, excuse me, can do something that would be negative to it, not what you've created and what you've preserved. So all my respect to you, and hopefully you will be okay with this, and that it will be a positive thing for you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oosterhoff. Any more comments from committee? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Okay, so there are no working groups, permit approvals and status updates. 194, there are no motions, no notices of motions, no other business, no correspondence. The date of the next meeting for the Kingston Heritage Properties Committee is October 16th at 9:30 a.m. And so now I need a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Jen, Alex, and all in favor? All right, thank you very much.